Hello, it's Lee. I wasn't sure exactly how to go about making this video, but I sort of wanted to talk about and touch on the subject of our multi-dimensional existence and how, whether we even know it or not, we already are in much more dimensions, many more dimensions than we think. Here I've taken the liberty to do a pretty cheesy picture, but I intended well, so take it as it is. This here is showing what I tried to do as a one-dimensional line. And then there's a 2D square shape, a 3D square shape, a fourth dimensional cube, etc. Because it's going to get difficult to start drawing big messy 6 and all that. You can't really draw that, I guess. 5 and 6 and all that. And additionally there's this that I'll talk about briefly. So we are certainly multidimensional creatures, beings, sentient entities already. When a being branches out from the cosmos, when God extends himself, to put it that way, and I guess the simplest terms I could try to use, then the soul spark first has an awareness of being, and it is. The 2D represents the recognition and the understanding of another dimension, another part of itself. Now, when the 2D tries to talk to the 1D and say, hey, there's actually more to it than just one dimension, the 1D may resist or may not resist, but eventually will come to, in a bizarre sense, create itself into the second D, or become self-actualized into the second D. So it's like it gets... Picture this line getting flipped, and all of a sudden, like, this line is this line here across, so it gets flipped, and next thing you know, there's more to it. And then there's another surprise, as if opening up out of this, coming topwards, is another a dimension of recognizing itself. So there's a cognizance of there being already existing more. I'm saying it in a funny way, but I hope the grand picture and point that I'm going to try and get to will make a teensy bit of sense. Furthermore, becoming more self-actualized, the third dimensional cube now becomes a fourth dimensional cube. As it was shown to me, it was really interesting, but the eccentric, eclectic artist Salvador Dali did a very interesting painting on Jesus crucified on a fourth dimensional cube. So that was like a hidden wink for the mystics and people that are a little more into the mysteries. So that was kind of a good little laugh, but also saying the truth. So yeah, it's a matter of an awareness upon which you realize there's much more to you than you and I think, even if we don't know it. Now, if the fourth dimension tries to go to talk to the 3D will have a hard time understanding itself if it's not prepared. So we can say that the human being physically is a three-dimensional creature, and yet it is certainly much more than that, apart from the soul inhabiting it, because there are thoughts and there are emotions, right? So even while already being 4D, people that seem to be 3D have a hard time accepting it, even though they are already having thought and emotion by default. So it's like they're in the realm of thought and emotion, trying to understand the 3D and saying to themselves, I am the third dimension, without realizing, no, you are not even the fourth, but you are more. So upon our perception, we start to understand in how many ways we live. Saying that, the thoughts and emotions we have that create our life, that give us intention, that we are, put it this way, I'll go back to the old Greek and the old Hindu and the old Druid philosophies. We are the ones that are experiencing things. It is not the eye that sees, it is the soul that sees, even if it uses the physical eye to see. Or, picture yourself as asleep and existing while not even being aware of your body. When we sleep, we forget our body, we don't pay attention to it. We shut off the 5 senses and continue existing, almost as if going back into the 1D. Yeah, we have dreams and all that. We don't, our heart doesn't stop beating. But I'm talking about our awareness. Unless we have a dream, when we are asleep, our awareness gets shrunk down to the 1D almost, just aware of it being. And that is why it is said, even the Dalai Lama said himself, his best meditation he does is when he sleeps at night. And I have a good laugh at that because it's true. We go back into this sort of pure being. And then upon our awakening and our perception, more and more and more awarenesses of self. On and on it goes. Now here's the problem. When the 2D tries to, sorry for my camera's shaky, I'm trying to hold this in a funny way, looking down. I'm holding the camera down. When the 2D pops out of the 1D and tries to say to the 1D, hey, wow, there's a whole new world here for you to see. When this isn't ready, it's going to have problems, difficulty, and perhaps conflict, so on and so forth. If a third dimensional awareness tries to tell the 2 dimensions about the third dimension, it can't see it. Here's my funny drawing of 4th dimensional being. Hard to draw it on paper. If this self-aware, self-actualized being tries to tell the 3rd dimensional person, hey, there's a whole new world for you to see. If this one is not awake, and a lot of people are still stuck in this, although they are here with thought and with emotion, etc., and yet they view themselves as this. So it's a matter of always looking backwards. We have a hard time to look, and I can't draw 5 dimensions nicely. We have a hard time looking forward. But I say, since we already are forward, it's a matter of letting go and accepting that which we already are, so that we can look all the way forward as far as we want, and all the way backwards to basic being. And it's kind of like a strange circle of infinity, because as further down the line we go this way, it comes back into the recognition and knowledge of pure being. So that's kind of my short, see if I can set this up. That's kind of my short spiel on it. Think about that. If someone already is in a high state of awareness, and they have made the agreement, they have accepted themselves as that, because we are going back to Godhead. We are going back to the self with capital S. We're going back to the purity. When we try so hard to be individual little selves, that's when we all fight and argue over whose opinion is more important, whose preferences are better, and all this kind of nonsense. I mean, it gives the spice of life. So basically there's coming out of pure being and what we call God, and then returning. So there's this, and that's where you see that figure 8 shape of infinity, playing this dance, doing these million-year trips, as it were. So I've noticed that, and I've tried to be polite when people have attacked me on YouTube and whatnot. People say there's no such thing as gods and aliens and gremlins and things like this, and I say, well, actually all the above are true. It's just that you haven't accepted it for your paradigm. You haven't accepted the possibility. First thing, making the agreement in the head to say, oh, is it possible that it is that? Because when we are in lesser, call it that, lesser reduced states of paradigm that we put upon ourselves, then we're in a mode of wanting to reduce to control. We want to put it in our hands to clamp it down, to control it. But we can't control anything that's going on. You and I can't even control our own death. It could happen tonight, it could happen tomorrow, who knows what. So being aware of and accepting things as possible allows you to be more aware of your dimensions. Now, if I dare to call myself a shaman or druid or mystic, then I'm just a little mediocre one compared to a lot of other people. And or I'm mediocre compared to maybe what I was in my past life, because trying to regain accesses are difficult in the so-called modern time. You have more amnesia to shake off and a stranger world to deal with. It was simpler back in the old days, to put it that way. But anyone can do it. So I never pat myself on the back and all that, because what I can do, you can do easily. And that's the point. So when we are trying to become aware, when we are trying to become free, we have to allow for other people to be the same. We can't control them. I can't say to anyone, if someone said, I levitated off my bed or I walked on water, who am I to say, no you didn't, that doesn't exist. That's my controlling aspect based on fear, based on pride. So we have to understand that yes, there needs to be discernment and caution, but on the other hand, when something is wonderful and excellent, when someone is talking to us about something better than, more happy, more holy, more joyful, more full of bliss, we should maybe listen a little bit, because maybe there's a whole new dimension for us to access and take part of and be a part of. So that's my quick speech, and I ask anyone to understand that kind of thing. Now, when I was talking about myself being a mystic, or my YouTube namesake, that simply has to do with being aware of there is energy between me and you right now. Like you see me on the TV or the computer screen, and you're sitting or standing at some little distance, but in between there's all sorts of energy going on. There are thought vibrations and patterns, there are light densities of different sorts, there are even entities of different sorts all over the place. The physical tools of our body are very limited when we count on them to be the final authority. So that's why I marvel and have a good chuckle at when someone already is with thought and emotion, which has nothing to do with body. They already are there and have that. And they can even say, I'm thinking, I'm feeling, and yet they are trying to let the third dimension be their authority. How ridiculous. So let's try to understand possibilities and then go from there. Because there are a lot more dimensions than we can think. Some things are so terrific that we can't even talk about it. We're not even actualized or aware of them, or could be maybe even in these bodies. And I can grant that. Maybe some stuff is just too big. We gotta wait for, we already are existing in it, but our idea to comprehend, our ability to comprehend gets very difficult unless we start seeing ourselves as fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional, etc. So that's my quick talk. Maybe you'll think about that. I'm going to continue thinking about all this and think about the infinity figure 8 symbol and what it means. And we are we are very much indeed in a multidimensional world, and it's wonderful. It is excellent, and I hope that we become more aware of it and more full of grace to accept it, not too much trepidation and fear and apprehension. So have yourself a good morning, afternoon, evening, weekend, week, whatever the case. Namaste, cheers, and more videos to come. See ya.